After Messi's World Cup final heartbreak, the world finally knows the truth behind that iconic embrace. The cameras captured the tears, the hug, and the raw emotion, but they never captured the words. Now, in an explosive tell-all interview that has sent shockwaves through the footballing universe, the 19-year-old prodigy has done the unthinkable. He has revealed exactly what was whispered between them on that fateful New Jersey night. And what he said has shattered every assumption the world had made. This is not just a story about a football match. This is a story about prophecy, about the brutal passing of a torch, and about a blessing given from a heart that was completely shattered. This is the untold story of the 2026 World Cup final. The disgrace, the grace, and the coronation of a new king. Lucatium, Camp Barcelona, Spain photoshoot. Date, October 2007. The year was 2007. Lionel Messi was just 20 years old, a shy, awkward kid from Rosario who could dribble past defenders but could barely look a camera in the eye. He was at the peak of his physical powers, but emotionally, he was still the boy who had left Argentina at 13 to chase a dream. It was a routine charity event at Camp Nou. FC Barcelona had partnered with UNICEF for a calendar photo shoot. The players would pose with local families, the calendars would raise money for children in need, and everyone would go home with a warm feeling and a few snapshots. Messi moved through the line mechanically. He held babies, forced smiles, and counted the minutes until he could escape. Most of the infants cried, wriggled, or slept through the experience. None of them left any impression. Then came Lamine Yamal. He was just 5 months old, a tiny, smiling infant from the working-class neighborhood of Rocafonda. His mother, Sheila Ibana, had won a local lottery to participate in the shoot. She had no idea that her son was about to become part of football folklore. When Messi took the baby into his arms, something shifted. The infant didn't cry. He didn't squirm. He laughed. He reached up and grabbed Messi's finger with a grip that seemed almost supernatural. The photographer, Joan Monfort, captured the moment. A young Messi gently bathing the laughing baby in a small, blue, plastic tub. It was a tender, paternal image. Messi held the baby a little longer than the others. He smiled. He looked at the parents and said something that would echo through history. "He's going to be something special," Messi said. "He's not afraid of anything." The parents laughed it off. They thanked him, took the photo, and went home. The photograph was tucked away in a dusty family album, forgotten for the next 19 years. Nobody thought twice about it. Fast forward to the summer of 2026. Spain has just won the European Championships. Lamine Yamal, now 19, is the biggest sensation in world football. He has broken every record at Barcelona, inherited the iconic number 10 jersey Messi once wore, and is the driving force behind Spain's World Cup campaign. Then, the photograph resurfaces. A historian digging through old archives stumbles upon the 2007 UNICEF calendar. They scan the photo and upload it to social media. Within hours, it explodes. The football world loses its collective mind. The baby in the bathtub is now the heir to the throne. The prophecy written 19 years ago is about to fulfill itself. The media goes into overdrive. Every headline screams the same narrative, the baby versus the legend. Messi's last dance versus Yamal's first step, the passing of the torch. But stop and think about this for a second. How does a 19-year-old process that kind of pressure? How do you prepare to face the man who literally bathed you as a child? How do you look into the eyes of your idol and try to take everything he has ever worked for? That is not just pressure, that is psychological warfare. Messi, now 39 and playing in the MLS, is asked about the photo days before the final. His response is measured, calm, but there's ice beneath the surface. That photo is incredible, he said. The fact that we're both playing in the World Cup now is crazy. He's a tremendous player, a global star. He's 19 years old and has his whole career ahead of him. And then, with a steely look that sent chills down every journalist's spine, he added, I wish him the best, but we'll give it our all to ensure he doesn't become champion this time. The message was unmistakable. The baby in a bathtub was no longer a novelty. He was the enemy. And the king was not ready to surrender his crown. Spain defender Aymeric Laporte knew what was coming. He warned the world days before the match. Argentina are a team that likes to leave a mark on their opponents, he said. That sort of thing shouldn't be allowed in football. He was right, and the war was about to begin. The lights were blinding. The roar of 82,000 fans was deafening. The biggest stage in sports. Argentina versus Spain. Messi versus Yamal. The defending champions versus the European kings. But from the very first whistle, it was painfully clear that this wasn't going to be a football match. It was going to be a brutal, ugly war. Late hits, shoulder barges aimed at his ribs. Argentina's players swarmed the teenager like a pack of wolves. Nicolas Tagliafico, Argentina's rugged left back, made it his personal mission to intimidate the teenager. He hacked at Yamal's ankles. He shoved him after every play. He whispered venomous things in his ear that the microphones couldn't pick up. He tried absolutely everything to break the boy's spirit. But Yamal didn't flinch. He didn't react. He didn't back down. Every time he got knocked down, he got up slowly. He dusted off his shirt. He looked at the referee. He looked at Tagliafico, and he smiled. A cold, calculated, unnerving smile that said, "Is that all you've got? This kid is absolutely, terrifyingly unbreakable." Former England goalkeeper Joe Hart, commentating on the match for the BBC, was completely astounded. Not only did Lamine Yamal not react, Hart said, he stood up to it. He was not rattled, and he did not back down. He had the entire team trying to smash him into the turf. He just stayed real cool. That is not normal for a 19-year-old. That is generational. That composure, that inhuman calm, is what separates the greats from the legends. And in that moment, Yamal proved he was the latter. But Argentina's frustration was building like a volcano about to erupt. They couldn't break him. They couldn't rattle him. They couldn't stop Spain's relentless possession game. The European champions moved the ball with surgical precision, choking the life out of the match. Messi, dropping deep to find space, was constantly hounded by Rodri and Pedri. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't turn. For the first time in his illustrious career, Messi looked old. He looked vulnerable. He looked human. In the 94th minute, the dam broke. Enzo Fernandez, desperate and reckless, lunged two-footed into a challenge on Spain's Pau Cubarsí. The ball curled, kissed the inside of the post, and nestled into the bottom corner. 1-0, Spain. The Spanish bench cleared. The players piled on top of each other in a frenzy of raw, unbridled emotion. The Argentinian players collapsed to the turf in despair. And on the center circle, Lionel Messi didn't collapse. He fell. He fell to his knees, and then he fell on his back. He stared up at the floodlights, covering his face with his hands. The cameras zoomed in. He was crying, not the quiet tear of a frustrated player. This was the ugly, uncontrollable, soul-crushing sobbing of a man who had just lost his last chance at immortality. The referee blew the final whistle. Spain had done it. They were the world champions. But in the middle of all that chaos, one player was missing from the celebration. Lamine Yamal wasn't with his teammates. He was running in the opposite direction. July 2026, 11:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Messi was sitting on the turf, alone. His teammates had disappeared into the tunnel. His coaches were on the sidelines, heads in their hands, unable to process the devastation. The cameras had found him. The 39-year-old legend, reduced to tears, his World Cup dream shattered for the second time in his career. He wasn't just crying. He was broken. Completely, utterly broken. His shoulders heaved with silent sobs. His face was buried in his hands. He had given absolutely everything. 8 goals, 4 assists, a tournament carried on his back, and it still wasn't enough. The silver medal around his neck felt like a weight of shame, not honor. And then he heard footsteps. Lamine Yamal, still celebrating moments earlier, had crossed the entire pitch. He had pushed through his teammates, through the security, through the chaos. He had one destination in mind, and nothing was going to stop him. He knelt down in front of Messi. The cameras zoomed in. The world held its breath. This was the moment. The exact moment the entire world had been waiting for. The baby in the bathtub, now a world champion, facing the broken king. What would he say? Would he taunt him? Would he rub it in? Or would he do something that nobody expected? Yamal didn't say anything at first. He just put his hand on Messi's shoulder. A gentle touch. A moment of profound silence between two men who understood each other in a way nobody else in that stadium could. Then he offered his hand. Messi looked up. His eyes were red, swollen, and glistening. His face was a mess of tears, sweat, and exhaustion. But when he saw who it was, when he saw the baby he had once held in his arms, now standing over him as a world champion, something shifted in his expression. The pain didn't disappear, but something else emerged. Confusion. And then, reluctantly, respect. He took Yamal's hand. And then, in a moment that will be etched into football history forever, Messi stood up. The two men embraced. They held each other like they were family, like they had known each other their entire lives. Because in a way they had. Barcelona's new number 10 embracing their most legendary number 10. A powerful, poignant image that was a stark contrast to the photograph of a 20-year-old Messi bathing a 6-month-old Lamine Yamal in 2007. The baby boy was now a man, and Messi was at the end of his World Cup journey. The quiet embrace between the two men, a generation apart, serve as a poignant bookend to a story that began in a bathtub 19 years ago. A passing of the torch, a moment of grace in the midst of utter chaos. And then they spoke. We didn't know what they said at first. The cameras couldn't pick it up. The microphones were too far away. For weeks after the final, the world speculated endlessly. What did they say to each other? Was Messi angry? Was he bitter? Was he proud? Social media exploded with theories. Fan pages went into overdrive. Every lip reader in the world tried to decipher the moment, but nobody knew the truth. Finally, Lamine Yamal broke his silence. The Spanish team had returned home as heroes. Millions lined the streets of Madrid. The bus crawled through a sea of red and yellow flags. But Lamine Yamal wasn't thinking about the celebrations. He was thinking about New Jersey. He was thinking about the embrace. He was thinking about the words. In an exclusive, emotional interview with the Spanish newspaper Marca, Yamal finally revealed what was whispered between them. He's the greatest player in history and someone I've always looked up to, Yamal said softly, his voice trembling with emotion. After the match, I wanted to show him my respect. He deserved that much. He deserved everything. The interviewer leaned in, barely able to contain the tension. What did you say to him, Lamine? The world has been dying to know. What did you whisper to Messi when he was broken on the ground? Yamal paused. He closed his eyes. He replayed the moment in his head. Then he spoke, his voice soft, reverent, and deeply emotional. I told him to get up, Yamal said. I told him that the world was still watching him. I told him that his legacy wasn't lost, that he would always be the greatest, that nothing could ever change that. But then Yamal dropped the bombshell. He revealed what Messi said back, the words that changed everything. He hugged me tighter. Yamal recalled, his eyes glistening. And he told me, keep going your way. The future belongs to your generation. Yamal looked directly into the camera. His voice broke. I know I won the World Cup that night. I have the medal. I have the trophy. But hearing those words from the man I grew up watching, the man who bathed me as a baby, that meant as much to me as the gold medal around my neck. Maybe more. That was my real trophy. The interview went viral within minutes. The football world was stunned into silence. Keep going your way. It wasn't just a phrase. It was a coronation. It was the passing of a torch. Messi, in his deepest moment of despair, was telling the boy who had just broken his heart, I am done. Now, it's your turn to protect the legacy. It's your turn to carry the weight. Think about the magnitude of that moment. The greatest player of all time, sitting in the ruins of his final World Cup dream, used his last breath on that pitch to bless the boy who stole his crown. That is not just sportsmanship. That is not just grace. That is legacy. That is the definition of a true champion. Messi, the greatest player in history, had just been defeated by his own heir. And instead of bitterness, instead of anger, instead of resentment, he gave Yamal the one thing that mattered most: validation. The future belongs to your generation. Those weren't just words. Those were a blessing, a handing over of the crown, an acknowledgement from the king himself that the throne was now empty. And that Yamal was. Yamal, now 19 years old, had become the youngest player in history to win both the World Cup and the European Championships. He had completed football before his 20th birthday, but he knew that the journey was just beginning. And he knew that the words Messi spoke to him in that embrace were more than just a blessing. They were a responsibility, a burden, a weight that would follow him for the rest of his career. While Messi was showing the world how to lose with dignity, his teammates were showing the world exactly the opposite. The final whistle had barely faded when the brawls broke out. Argentina had completely lost their heads. Leandro Paredes was seen grabbing Spain's Eric Garcia by the throat. He shoved Gavi to the ground with reckless abandon. Nahuel Molina appeared to strike Rodri. Argentina's assistant coach Roberto Ayala struck Dani Olmo. It was a disgrace. It was ugly. It was shameful. And it was all caught on camera. FIFA launched an immediate disciplinary investigation. The governing body cited its disciplinary code. Several Argentina players now face potential international bans. The British media was ruthless. The BBC ran the damning headline: Messi was betrayed by Argentina's provocative approach. They argued that Argentina had arrived in New Jersey not to play football, but to destroy it. They had used aggression as a substitute for skill. They had tried to intimidate a 19-year-old boy, and it had backfired spectacularly. By the time extra time rolled around, they were exhausted, demoralized, and down to 9 men. They had let Messi down. They had betrayed their captain. But here's the question we have to ask. Did Argentina's disgrace actually cement Messi's legacy? Or did it tarnish the final chapter of the greatest career we have ever seen? Did the shame of his teammates make his grace shine brighter? Or did it stain his farewell forever? The press room was a war zone. Argentina's manager, Lionel Scaloni, faced the firing squad. His face was pale, drawn, and defeated. He took the blame. We tried to be aggressive, he muttered. Maybe too aggressive. We lost the plot. We lost our heads. Meanwhile, Messi sat in the dressing room, his head in his hands. He knew that his team had let their emotions get the better of them. He knew that he had been left isolated. He knew that this was not how it was supposed to end. But Messi, ever the professional, didn't hide. 24 hours later, when the world was still dissecting the chaos, Messi broke his silence on Instagram. The pain is immense, and this wound will take time to heal, he wrote. But I also hold on to all the good things. The matches we turn around by giving it our all. moments that will remain in our memories forever, and the support of an entire country, which, combined with this group's hard work and effort, brought us back among the world's elite once again. It is hard to fully appreciate our achievement right now, but this group reached 2 consecutive World Cup finals. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for every greeting and message. Once again, we managed to unite as a country and stand together, sharing the immense pride of being Argentine. And then, the final line that silenced all his critics. I also want to congratulate Spain on the championship. Class. Pure, unshakable, undeniable class. Even in defeat, even in heartbreak, even with the pain of losing his final World Cup, Messi showed the world why he is the greatest of all time. Not just because of his skill, but because of his character. The Argentine Football Association consoled their captain with a simple, heartbreaking message. Your tears are our tears, captain. But the question on everyone's mind was inevitable. Was this the end? At 39 years old, the next World Cup in 2030 would see him at 43. It's unlikely he'll play again. This was it. This was the end of an era. Messi didn't confirm his retirement. He didn't deny it either. He just let the moment speak for itself. Meanwhile, Lamine Yamal was already looking ahead. In his interviews, he spoke not with arrogance, but with profound humility. I do not want to be Messi, he had said before. He knows that. I want to follow my own path. The photograph of that embrace in New Jersey will be remembered for generations. Just like the photograph of Messi holding a baby Yamal in 2007. Full circle, the beginning and the end, the past and the future, the legend and the heir. Messi's heart was broken in that final, but in that embrace, something else happened. Something beautiful, something that transcended the result. A passing of the torch, a blessing from a king to his successor. A moment of grace in the midst of chaos. Lamine Yamal returned to Spain as a hero, but he wasn't celebrating. He was thinking about New Jersey. He was thinking about the words, keep going your way. The future belongs to your generation. It was a blessing, but it was also a burden. Messi had effectively laid the crown of world football at his feet. The weight of carrying that legacy is immense. It is a weight that could crush a lesser man.